Hello, I'm Christina from The Turned Leg. I love to salvage, repurpose, and create and help others to do the same. And today I have a big announcement. You see, I'm going to be expanding my booth. Yep, even bigger. In fact, stay tuned to the end of the video and you're gonna see exactly where my new location will be. And I promise on this channel, I'll be taking you along for the entire journey. So hopefully it'll help those of you that already have a booth and any newbies out there that are considering setting up a booth. But today's topic is a little bit different. I started my booth in 2015, and since then, I've gotten second booths, I've expanded my booth space, and I was trying to figure out, I think 8 or 9 different times this has all happened. And every time it's been horribly scary, and I've been worried, and there's a lot of stress. So I thought I would make a video today to help anyone that has a booth that's kind of flirting with the idea of getting a second booth or expanding, and kind of share my tips, tricks, and things to consider. This also might be a little helpful for those of you that don't have a booth and might be considering a booth of your own, because I think there's going to be a lot of overlap. The first thing we're going to consider is, how do you know that you're ready to expand or get a second booth? And the number one thing I think is you're kind of feeling comfy, like you figured it all out, like you kind of know how this works. Sure, having your booth, things will be still very unpredictable, but you're kind of feeling you have some confidence and you kind of know what to expect. I think that's a first starting spot. And for most people, I think it takes at least a year to feel that. I mean, maybe if you're a total booth rock star, you might get it a little bit quicker. But for me, it's always about a year to figure out a new space, to figure out how things are working and what will work best for me. The next thing to consider is, do you already have routines and systems in place? Do you have ways to store your stuff? Do you process your new items quickly? Do you have a plan for doing that? Or are you just feeling overwhelmed and out of control with your inventory? In order to get a second space, there's going to be more inventory to deal with. So it's probably good that you're feeling comfortable and confident with how you're purchasing things and getting them into your space, so you're not going to be even more stressed out, because getting a new space and expanding comes with a lot of extra stress. So make sure you already have some routines and some systems in place. If you need some help with any of these things, I do have an entire playlist, Booth 101, where I give lots of tips and tricks and suggestions. Another sign that you may be ready to expand or to get a second booth is nudging from others. And this might be friends or family, customers that are sending you messages like, I love your space, I wish there was more. Maybe even the owner of the antique mall or your fellow dealers that are really complimenting you and telling you, wow, you've got a natural knack for that. That's a sign that maybe you could expand. But kind of the flip side of this is, I think things should still be scary. So I don't think, and please chime in if you've ever expanded or if you're a booth owner that has had more than one booth. I think every time you make a change, it should be scary. I would worry if a booth owner said, I'm getting a new booth space, no biggie, it's gonna be a piece of cake. That would really make me concerned. I think when you're still a little worried and scared, you're gonna do a little bit more planning. You might do a little bit more thinking, like the what ifs, and I think those things are important, so you're really prepared for your new space and what if things don't work out. I've also found that the scary things are usually the things that you need to do next, because that's how you're gonna grow. You gotta do the scary things. Those normally give you the most amount of growth, like me doing a YouTube channel. Scared to death to go live when I first started all of this, and now I have a YouTube channel. It is absolutely amazing, but it's helped me and it's helped me grow my business so much. Another sign that you may be ready to expand or to get another booth is you got a lot of stuff and it's at home because there's no space. And that's a good sign that maybe instead of a storage unit, which I don't recommend going that route. It's much better if you are feeling ready to get your stuff into somewhere that you can sell it, maybe expand your booth space, or get a second location. Another thing that'll tell you if you're ready are the numbers. If you're just doing it as a hobby and it feels great, but you're losing a ton of money, perhaps expanding isn't the best idea. Unless you're, independently wealthy, then by all means, do you and go ahead. So you want to make sure your numbers are looking good before you expand or go into a second location. Another thing that piggybacks with all of this is a business savings account. Normally for a new space, you're going to have to pay a month's rent in advance. So, you're going to need that saved up, but you really should have a couple months' rent, if not an entire year's rent saved up in that business account. I love to have that comfort, that slush fund, that no matter what, because boy, over the last few years, we've seen things that we never thought would happen. You're going to be prepared as a booth owner, and you're going to feel confident that if you don't figure out your new space right away, and perhaps you have to pay, that you still are going to have some funds to continue your business. Another important factor is, do you want to do this? Maybe you have a small booth space and you're good. You're content. You're able to do all the things you want to do, but you're still able to run your business. Maybe you are a stay-at-home mom and you can spend time with your kids. And this is just about as much as you want. You don't want anything more. So you have to really want it. Don't just do it because everyone else is telling you. And that goes right into trusting your gut, I think, as a business owner. And some people are really afraid to do this, but you have to maybe sit quiet with yourself and decide, is this something you really feel you want to do or you don't want to do? Sure, there's going to be that initial fear that I talked about, but once you get past the fear, is it like, yeah, I really want to do this. Sure, I'm scared to death, but I have the numbers, I have the savings account, I think I have the merchandise, I'm going to do all of the things. I think it's the next step. Spend some quiet time with yourself to really make sure this is what you want to do and that you feel it is the next step. Trust your gut, trust yourself. I will say, as a business owner, even when I made the crazy decision to stop teaching middle school science and to run this business full time, sure, I was scared. I had some plans in place, like what if? But I knew in my gut it was absolutely what I needed to do. And that's what helped me get through the hard times. Another thing to really consider is, are you going to have the support and the time? Setting up a new space is a lot of work. You guys know, if you're a booth owner, just maintaining your booth is hard, but setting it up from scratch. And you might have to build walls and build new displays and paint and do other things. Do you have the time? Do you have the support? Do you have the truck that you need to transport? Do you have people that will help you? It's really important to figure those things out before you say, yep, I'm in. Make sure that your schedule is going to allow you to spend a little extra time setting things up so you have a really good start, because usually the quicker you can get that new booth set up, the quicker you can start to make the rent and profit on that space. You don't want to have that new booth sitting like coming soon with nothing in it, not making any money, just because your life is too crazy right now. So really make sure you have that time. Now we're going to talk about some things to consider with a new booth space. And these are things I hope you're going to think about before you kind of sign on the dotted line or agree to it. A lot of these are self-explanatory, but sometimes the bright and shiny things distract us and we just do things without thinking about all of the options. So I hope these help. And by the way, if I've missed anything, I know there's a lot of seasoned booth owners that watch this. Please comment down below other things to consider and tips and tricks. One of the things you want to consider is, what kind of booth do you want? Are you going to do something totally different? Do you want to do pretty much your same kind of booth setup, but just in another location? Are you going to do a whole different theme? I once tried to do an entire kitchen themed booth one time. If you decide that you're going to change things up and do something very different than your previous booth, is it going to be successful? Is that kind of stuff selling? For instance, if you're doing an all mid-century booth, is mid-century modern stuff doing well in your area? Do a little research before a drastic change. If what you're doing is working, why not stick with that? Set up a second booth with a similar look and feel. The other thing to consider is location. Are you gonna have a second booth in your current mall? Or are you looking for a whole new mall? Are you gonna branch out to a whole new location? There's pluses and minuses in both. One of the things you should consider is if you are happy at your current location. If so, one of the simplest things might be to just stay where you're at and get a second booth at that location when it becomes available. It's gonna save you drive time. You're gonna know what to expect because you kind of already know how things run at your mall. And if you've ever started out in an antique mall before, you guys know it takes a while before you really figure out how things work. And another added benefit, which I've really enjoyed every time I've had more than one booth, is that you can move items between booths and people will think they're brand new. You can literally move one piece of furniture that's kind of been in the same spot for a while to your other booth location, and it gives it a whole new look. This perks things up. It's so much easier because you don't have to like transport it in your car and get help and loading and unloading and weather and all of the things. It is a quick and easy way to give booths a whole new look, and it's all by doing it at the same location. So that's one of the things I really loved about having two booths in the same location is I could just swap items back and forth. I mentioned travel time, and I guess you need to really think about where you're at now. Is it too far? Maybe you want to get a second location to try a newer mall to you, so the travel time won't be as bad. And then maybe you'll try to figure things out from there, what you want to do going forward. Travel time is important, and frankly, find a good mall, but get it the closest mall you can, in my opinion, because it's so much easier to be close, to pop things in and out as large items sell, instead of trying to rearrange your whole schedule and day and drive the hour or whatever you need to get to your mall location. So make sure you consider travel time. Also, if you're getting a new booth, you have to make sure you're paying close attention to the numbers. You want to make sure you're getting a contract and that you completely understand it. Are you paying the first month rent ahead of time? What are you responsible for? When are you going to get your check? Are you going to get a printout? Are you going to get emails? All of this information is also in my Booth 101 videos for starting an antique booth too. I know after having a booth for a while, we kind of forget like, well, how did we do it? How did all those things get started? What's included in your contract? What needs to happen? How does it all work? Just to make sure you really read and understand everything. And if not, ask. It's so much easier going in before you sign everything. Another thing to consider is your new booth is going to need signage. I always recommend that you have a name for your space and that you have signs and information about yourself. I have shared many times here some of the signs that I put around my booth, and I'll probably pop a few in right now while you're watching so you can see, but I think customers like to see who they're buying from. So actually having a picture of yourself in your space, explaining your business, your why, what you do, what you like, and why you are a booth owner, I think really helps people who are shopping. Because remember, you're not going to be there all the time, to get a sense of, oh, the whole know, like, and trust. They like to shop from people that they feel a little bit more familiar. Obviously, having a social media presence too can make a difference, but make sure you have a little bit of signage and maybe even some business cards for your new booth space. Obviously, another consideration is for your new booth space, unless you're talking about a small showcase or something, you're gonna need the big pieces. You're gonna need display pieces. You're gonna need the statement pieces. You're gonna need the pieces to get people into your booth, the cool stuff. So it's really important to go on a hunt or just make sure you have in mind a few pieces that you can use. I think it is so important when you open a new booth to really have that wow factor. That way, the customers that are shopping the antique mall and have been there many times will stop and go, hey, look at this new space. So you really want to try to plan out that first display that you set up with even a little bit more thought and planning than normal, because you really want to get those customers to realize it's a new space and it's something special. Another thing to consider, and I think it is so important, is lighting. Will you have electricity in your new space? I think lighting and having electricity in your booth is so important, and I really believe the people with the electricity that use it correctly, good lighting, are going to have far more sales than the people that do not have it. And I do have videos here all about lighting, but lighting is important. Also, not just having it, but using it effectively. You might need to also purchase some additional lamps or light fixtures to light your space appropriately. The better the lighting, the more customers and the more sales you are going to have. Just trust me. I also recommend that you use daylight lighting if at all possible. I think it just really makes a difference in your space. Sure, secondary lights can have whatever kind of light bulbs you want, but I think to light up your space, sticking with daylight lighting really makes the difference. And finally, and we talked about this before, is the setup time. Don't forget that you're going to have to block out some serious time to get things set up, and that really depends how big your new space is, how long you have been a booth owner. Thank goodness I have sped up over the years from when I was a new booth owner. When I first started, doing my booth displays could take days, and my booth would pretty much be closed down while I was working on it, so I was losing sales. Now I have kind of just figured out what works for me. I do have lots of videos on how I do what I do, but planning ahead of time helps so much. It might not always work the way you planned it, but at least you kind of have an idea of the tools, the materials, the items, the pieces that you'll need, the extras like tablecloths or curtains. Planning all of these things ahead of time and bringing a few extra supplies just in case is going to help things go a lot quicker. And don't forget about getting extra help. If you've been considering getting a second booth or expanding your booth space, I hope this will help you. As I said, I am expanding. Let's take a look at what will soon become my new booth space. This part of the mall, my booth is to the left, but I'm excited to say that the area across from it, a portion of it, is now also going to become my booth space. This dealer is going to be moving out at the end of the month, and I'm going to be able to expand. Of course, I'm going to have to figure out quite a few things. This space is very similar to the space that I was in already, that it only has the walls of the building, the exterior walls. The dealer here has built some things with wood, but she is going to be taking it all with her. So it is going to be completely up to me to figure things out, and I'm very excited for the opportunity. I promise there will be lots of future videos on how I rework this space. One of the things I am dealing with is that there's only one piece of 4x8 pegboard in this entire space, and I'm not sure if it's staying, so I might have to completely start from scratch once again. But I'm already looking for big display pieces and items to get me started. For those of you that are thinking about expanding or maybe just starting your very first booth space, this should be a fun journey, taking this area and transforming it into my new booth space. I'm excited. I hope you are too. If you are looking to expand or get a second booth location, I hope this has maybe helped you make your decision or at least figure out what you need to do before that all happens. I appreciate all of you so much. Thank you so much for watching. And booth owner experts, make sure to touch on anything that I missed to help everybody out. Thanks again, everyone. Now get out there to salvage, repurpose, and create.